Carlos Alcaraz just did something that has the entire tennis world questioning reality. He's reached his first Australian Open semi-final, and here's the insane part. He hasn't dropped a single set. Not one. 15 straight sets won. Meanwhile, everyone else is bleeding, sweating, and barely surviving 5-set marathons. How is this even possible? Let's break down this absolute masterclass. Is Alcaraz about to become the youngest man ever to complete a career Grand Slam? Or will someone finally break his perfect streak? First Australian Open semi-final. 0 sets dropped. Carlos Alcaraz just walked through the draw like he was playing a friendly practice session while everyone else treated this tournament like a war zone. 15 sets played, 15 sets won. No tiebreaks lost, no comeback victories needed, no dramatic 5-set thrillers. Just clean, efficient, ruthless dominance. The kind of performance that makes you wonder if everyone else even showed up to compete. Let's talk about what just happened at Rod Laver Arena. Alcaraz faced Alex de Minaur, the Australian home favorite, in the quarterfinals. The crowd wanted a hero. They wanted their guy to push Alcaraz, make him sweat, maybe even steal a set. What they got instead was a tennis clinic disguised as a competitive match. Final score, 7-5, 6-2, 6-1. De Minaur fought hard in that first set, clawing back from 3-0 down, then from 5-3 down, actually getting it to 5-5. For about 10 minutes, it looked competitive. Then Alcaraz remembered he's Carlos Alcaraz. He ramped up the intensity, which is a polite way of saying he decided to stop playing around and actually try. He took the first set 7-5, and from that point, it wasn't even close. The next 2 sets took just over an hour combined. De Minaur, ranked solidly in the top 10, playing at home with a stadium full of supporters, couldn't win more than 2 games in a set once Alcaraz decided the match needed to end. Alcaraz's first Australian Open semi-final, which somehow makes this run even more absurd. He's figuring out the tournament in real time and simultaneously making it look easier than any Grand Slam he's already won. He won the US Open in 2022. He won Wimbledon in 2024. He knows what championship tennis looks like, and apparently, he's decided the Australian Open doesn't require him to lose sets along the way. The numbers are stupid. Genuinely stupid. 15 sets won without dropping 1. To put that in perspective, most champions at Grand Slams drop at least 2 or 3 sets during their run. That's normal. That's expected. You face tough opponents, conditions vary, you have an off day, someone plays the match of their life against you. Dropping sets is part of winning a major. Except Alcaraz looked at that conventional wisdom and said, no thanks. His path through the draw wasn't easy either. The early rounds were straightforward, sure. But round 4 against Tommy Paul? Paul is a legitimate top player. Alcaraz beat him 7-6, 6-4, 7-5, 3 competitive sets. Not a single one where Paul got blown out. And Alcaraz still won all 3. He fired 35 winners in that match, controlled the crucial points, and walked off the court looking like he'd just finished a light warm-up. The match also featured what might be the shot of the tournament. Third set, middle of a point, Alcaraz is tracking down a ball. He removes his hand from his racket. Yes, removes his hand. Midpoint, blows air on his palm to cool it down because apparently the heat was bothering him, then proceeds to hit an overhead winner. Who does that? Who has the confidence, the audacity, the sheer disrespect for their opponent to blow on their hand in the middle of a rally and then win the point anyway? That's not tennis. That's performance art. The heat in Melbourne has been record-breaking. Temperatures hit 45 degrees Celsius, which is about 113 degrees Fahrenheit for anyone not on the metric system. That's not playing conditions. That's survive-if-you-can conditions. Matches have been played under closed roofs at Rod Laver Arena, because keeping the roof open would basically turn the court into an oven. Players are struggling with the heat, cramping, dealing with the physical toll of competing in a sauna. Alcaraz? He mentioned the closed roof helps his power game because it makes conditions more predictable. Of course it does. Why wouldn't the brutal heat somehow work in his favor?
The serve looks great. His ability to quickly see a ball, make a decision that he's going in before he even hits the approach shot. He's doing the same shit that he did against Sinner at the US Open final last year. He's maybe the only person on earth that doesn't need an approach shot to get into the net. He creates a ground stroke, and then all of a sudden, because he's so fast, I always think of that scene in Superbad where they're running for a while and they go, and Seth Rogen goes, fastest kid alive.
Cue that meme up.
But he just is able to get into spots where it's not even natural if you're his opponent to anticipate him being there.
Other players are collapsing, taking medical timeouts, barely making it through matches. Alcaraz is casually discussing how the extreme conditions slightly improve his performance. That's the difference between good players and all-time greats. Good players adapt to difficult conditions. Great players find ways to use those conditions as advantages. Now he's facing Alexander Zverev in the semifinals. This is a rematch of their 2024 quarterfinal meeting, which Alcaraz won. In his on-court interview with Jim Courier after beating de Minaur, Alcaraz talked about seeking revenge against Zverev. Revenge for what exactly? You already beat him here. But that's the mindset. That's the mentality of someone who isn't satisfied with winning. He wants to dominate. He wants to make statements. Zverev is no joke. He's tall, powerful, has one of the best serves in tennis, and can match Alcaraz's firepower from the baseline. This should be the match where Alcaraz finally drops a set. This should be where the perfect run ends. Except if you've watched Alcaraz play this tournament, you know he's not dropping a set to anyone. He's playing at a level that doesn't allow for competitive sets. You might win games. You might make him work for a few points, but you're not winning a set. Let's talk about what this means historically. Alcaraz is 2 wins away from completing a career Grand Slam. He's already won the US Open and Wimbledon. He won the French Open too, which makes the Australian Open the only major missing from his collection. If he wins this tournament, he becomes the youngest man in history to complete the career Grand Slam. Not one of the youngest. The youngest. He'd be surpassing Rafael Nadal, his countryman and idol, who previously held that record. Nadal won his career Grand Slam at 24. Alcaraz is 22. That's a 2-year difference, which in the world of Grand Slam achievements is massive. Federer completed his at 27, Djokovic at 28. These are all-time legends, the greatest players ever to touch a racket. And Alcaraz is on pace to accomplish something they didn't do until later in their careers. That's not luck. That's not favorable draws. That's generational talent backed by unshakable confidence. The way he's playing doesn't even look difficult. That's what makes this so absurd. When players dominate tournaments, they usually show signs of struggle. A close tiebreak here, a tough third set there. Maybe they're limping slightly or showing frustration. Alcaraz looks like he's enjoying a pleasant afternoon hitting session. He's smiling between points. He's trying trick shots mid-match. He's blowing on his hand during rallies. This isn't a player grinding through a major. This is a player so far ahead of the competition that he can afford to entertain himself. De Minaur is ranked 9th in the world. He's fast, he's consistent, he fights for every point. At home in Australia, with crowd support, in a Grand Slam quarter-final, he should have at least pushed Alcaraz to a competitive match. Instead, after that first set, he won a total of 3 games across 2 sets. 3 games? That's not de Minaur playing poorly. That's Alcaraz playing at a level that makes top 10 players look like they belong on a different court. Tommy Paul, in round 4, is another top-level player. He reached a Grand Slam semi-final recently. He's beaten top players. He came into that match believing he could win. Alcaraz beat him in straight sets without ever really looking threatened. Paul played well. The scores were close. But close scores don't tell the full story when one player controls every big moment. Alcaraz won all 3 tiebreaks or close games when it mattered, and Paul never had a set point. This kind of dominance doesn't happen often. When Federer was at his peak, he'd occasionally cruise through tournaments without dropping sets, but even he usually faced adversity somewhere in the draw. Djokovic's best runs at the Australian Open, his favorite slam, still involved tight matches and drop sets. Nadal's French Open dominance is legendary, but even he lost sets at Roland Garros. What Alcaraz is doing right now is historical by any standard. The scary part? He's 22. He's not at his peak yet. Players typically hit their prime in their mid to late 20s. Alcaraz is already performing at this level, and he's still developing. His serve is improving. His movement is already elite. His mental game keeps getting stronger. If this is what he looks like before his prime, what happens when he actually reaches it? The matchup with Zverev on Friday is fascinating because Zverev is one of the few players who can theoretically match Alcaraz's physicality. He's 6 feet 6 inches, hits huge serves, and can overpower opponents from the baseline. If anyone in this tournament was going to take a set off Alcaraz, conventional wisdom says it would be Zverev. Except conventional wisdom has been useless for predicting anything Alcaraz does. In their previous meeting, Alcaraz won. Zverev has never beaten Alcaraz in a completed match. They've played 5 times. Alcaraz leads 5-0. Zverev is 0-5 against the guy who wants revenge against him. That revenge comment in the interview was peak Alcaraz. He's not satisfied with winning. He wants to send messages. He wants opponents to know that even their best isn't enough. The closed roof at Rod Laver Arena has become a storyline because of the extreme heat, but it also benefits Alcaraz's style of play. He hits with massive power and spin. Outdoor conditions with wind and sun can affect that. Indoor conditions in a closed stadium eliminate those variables. The ball reacts more consistently. His serves land with more precision. His ground strokes have more bite. It's almost like the tournament organizers designed the perfect environment for him to dominate. Other players are complaining about the heat, the schedule, the conditions. Alcaraz is thriving. He's not just winning matches, he's making them look effortless. That's the sign of someone operating at a completely different level. When you make top 10 opponents look ordinary, when you win quarterfinals at Grand Slams without breaking a sweat, you're not just playing good tennis, you're rewriting what good tennis looks like. The Australian Open has always been the one major that eluded certain champions. Federer dominated it, winning 6 titles. Djokovic owns it with 10 titles. Nadal only won it once despite being one of the greatest ever. It's a specific tournament that requires specific skills. Handling heat, adapting to hard courts, maintaining form over 2 weeks in challenging conditions. Alcaraz is treating it like his personal playground in his first deep run. He hasn't just reached the semifinals, he's done it without dropping a set, while playing some of the most spectacular tennis the tournament has seen. The shot against Tommy Paul where he blew on his hand mid-rally? That's going to be on highlight reels forever. Not just because it was audacious, but because it worked. He won the point. He won the match. He's winning everything. If he beats Zverev, and let's be honest, he's going to beat Zverev, he faces either the defending champion or another top player in the final. And at this point, does it matter? He's beaten everyone in straight sets so far. Why would the final be different? The way he's playing, the final might actually be less competitive than the quarterfinal was. That's how dominant this run has been. The tennis world is in shock because this wasn't supposed to happen this easily. Grand Slams are supposed to be grueling. You're supposed to survive tough matches, recover, and dig deep. Alcaraz is treating this like a warm-up tournament. He's 15-0 in sets, looking completely fresh and talking about revenge against an opponent he's never lost to. That's not confidence. That's certainty. 2 wins away from history. 2 wins away from the career Grand Slam at 22 years old. 2 wins away from doing something Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic didn't accomplish at his age. And based on how he's played so far, those 2 wins look more like formalities than challenges. The Australian Open semi-final isn't just Carlos Alcaraz's first. It might be the most dominant run to a semi-final we've seen in years. 15 sets won, 0 dropped. That's not a tennis run. That's a statement. Alcaraz is rewriting what dominance looks like at Grand Slams, and he's doing it at 22. If watching greatness unfold in real-time interests you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment predicting if anyone takes even 1 set off him. Thanks for watching.